Hello, am I on? Yeah, hello everyone. And also welcome to Carl, which will help me to describe what was behind the scene yesterday. So, Zoom, you all know it. You have been all using it, etc., etc. Well, a little bit of details on what it is and how to use it in the best possible way to do music education, of course. You all know that it is a commercial product, and this means that we don't have any control as a community upon it. We have some influence upon it. For example, with a strong request from the North American musical institution, in the very end, they enhanced the audio a little bit. So they invented what is now called, well, the original audio sound, which is what I'm going to explain you a little bit more in details later on. So being proprietary, you don't know exactly what it is. And you always run it on a cloud. So if you have some, for example, problems about privacy and so on, forget about it, because you will never be able to get anything fully under your own complete control, because it doesn't work. It's not engineered like that. It is not a problem in the music education world normally. It's a problem in the medical world, a very big problem. In fact, no hospital uses it at all, because they cannot control the data. They go anywhere. You don't know where, even. Normally, you want to have it at the best performance, so you install a client, even if you can run it without. You can run it into a browser, but the browser version is not always up to date, and it's not so real optimal when you talk about the video interface. The video is not okay. So you install the client, and it runs on everything, really everything. So you install it on mobile phone, tablet, whatever it is. Of course, it is commercial. If you want really to use it, you have to buy a license. Somebody is trying to use it using, I think it's 40 minutes free time, but every 40 minutes disconnect and you reconnect it. It is not the way to work, unless you do 5-minute shots. So you normally have to buy it. And as I said, it's not possible to fully install it on your own premises. So you always rely on something which goes out on the network and come back. So when you talk about latency, this is a big issue, of course, because even if I'm here and I'm talking to Domenico, which is there, probably I go to North America and back, or something like that. I don't even know, because it goes into the cloud. And it has a very good booking system, so you create the room, etc. It has all the possible features that you want to do multiple people talking together, teaching together, so hundreds of people. It depends if you pay the license, but you can do that. Chatting, the moderator can really control everything, so it is very difficult to go messy on Zoom, because the moderator can really kick you off, mute you, and do whatever you want. The user interface is very easy. The problem is that we don't even know what's the next update, the next thing they get out of the head. And it might be something that they get out, a rabbit that you like, or a pigeon that you don't like at all. And sometimes it happens, oh, here is a new feature, and you say, no, it was much better before, but you cannot go back. That's the problem, that you go forward, you follow them. How it looks like, we all know, we were on Zoom like now. It is not possible really to control the layout. You have a couple of layouts, this is it. Presenter layout or slide layout. So if you really want to do something different, it is not possible. That's a big problem of it. Another thing that you can see here is that, for example, it is compatible with most of it, but we need to do it to teach music or arts, for example. So normally, the microphone which is inside the laptop, or even worse, the smartphone, is very bad. And even loudspeakers are very bad. So what you normally try to do is to connect something which is better into the device that you're using with Zoom. Normally you buy a USB external microphone. As you can recognize down there, there is a Samsung Go Mig, which David loves, that I love. It's the most cheap and most performant small device that you can buy. Sometimes it can be tricky if you want to plug it into a smartphone, for example, but you can. There are adapters, and Lucia students prove that they can do it, even if they are pianists. So if they can do it, everybody can do it. So there is a way to connect a laptop, a good microphone to a smartphone and have a good sound out of it. And vice versa, you go, of course, with headphones, because that's the only way you avoid the echo and you get the best possible audio. In theory, you should also connect an external webcam, and in Zoom you can have up to 2 webcams. It is a bit tricky, but you can do. I mean, if you really want, you can have more than 1 webcam, because normally pianist I want to see your hands playing on the piano, and I want to see the big picture to see if you're standing or like that. So you need two webcams. You can do it. It's a bit difficult, but there is a way to do it. And you should connect the device via cable. Okay, oh God, I got a smartphone. How do I connect the smartphone via cable? Actually, you can, but it's not something that everybody can do it. So you normally go Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi, it's enough, I should say. So the feature for performing arts, as I said, it has the original sound feature. The original sound feature in the very beginning was very well hidden. Very stupid idea from the developers. I will show you where it was hidden. Now, luckily, when you fire up Zoom and you have enabled for the first time, on the screen you have button directly original sound on, original sound off. Remember to switch it on, because it does not come on by default. It is always off in the beginning. And so you start playing and you get the bad audio, and then the teacher tells you, audio on, please, and then you click, and that's it. You can even control some other features like disable the echo cancellation. You heard yesterday about how many disasters an echo cancellation can make, so you need to put it off. You can make some audio enhancement, etc. The only problem is that the code that they use is really proprietary, so we don't know what's inside it. We don't know how processing it is doing, and we cannot make any enhancement or control of it, because, of course, it's something that you cannot do. So this was the original way. You should navigate down 3 menus and find it. Now, it's luckily, nobody was able to find it. Now it's on the screen, so this problem is over and solved. I showed you this slide already before with Lola. Let's go back on the 2 lines with Zoom. The standard audio is very bad, as you can see. All the higher frequencies are gone. When the original sound is much better, the higher frequencies are high up enough at the EduMeet ones and many other tools, so you can listen to music. If you really look at the spectrum, however, let me see if I have the pointer. For example, you see that here and here and here there are artifacts which do not exist in the original sound. That is because of the compression. That is because of the way the handling of the audio is done, which we have no idea how. So we cannot fix that. So really, it is not yet as good as we should want to be, but it is quite okay at the moment, I should say. So scenarios to use it is to teach one-to-one lessons, but also to groups. It is not possible to play together, of course. The delay is very close to half a second. You cannot even sing happy birthday with it.
Or more.
One more, yeah, maybe more than half a second. Sometimes it's 1 second and so on. So, okay, but that's it. You can do it. It is okay. And of course, if you want to learn more, you need to rely to the company website. But it is usable. It is not perfect, but it was a spam word during the pandemic. Everybody was using Zoom. Then people discover other tools like the Clean Feed, like Jacktrip, like EduMeet, etc., etc. And so, in fact, the use of Zoom into the performing art is going down because the other ones are going up now that people get more conscious of what to do. But that's essentially it as an overview. And if you have any question, here we are. Any experience? Yeah, Vytenis. Can we have a microphone from Vytenis?
Thank you. Just like to add a few things about Zoom sound. So you can disable all the analyzing features of it, but it will still analyze the sound.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and if it thinks that you are, let's say, making feedback, it just mutes the audio. Yeah, it can be original sound on, but it's just like that. And if you're not speaking or making sound, it will anyway say on the screen that you're muted, but you're still using original sound. So yeah, so in a way you cannot run from that. And based on the Google search, Zoom uses this audio quota called Opus. And what is interesting about this, so because of its special stuff, it has 2 options how to work with sound. One is speech, and other is music. So based on personal experience, When you turn on original sound, it uses music codec. And when you turn it off, it uses speech codec. So, yeah, that's it.
Hi, this is Timo from Turku again. I have used OBS software to add external cameras and also to use digital score software from my iPad. And that seems to be rather effective. I have been happy to cope with that system. So at my home, I have in my studio fixed place for the actually old iPhone cameras. So as I don't use them anymore as a phone, so they are now cold cameras, which I can then combine to my teaching sessions. And I just would like to get to your attention a French application for digital scores. I really can recommend Music. It has an optical music recognition system, artificial intelligence is there in behind. And so it can also make the scores sounding ones, and you can export from that software as music XML files, so then you can modify, do arrangements with whatever music notation software you'd like to have. And also you can buy from music publishers scores directly into the software. So that's my combo I'm using. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one other comment I would make that the great thing about Zoom with the original audio is it works well enough to get started, but then at some point I did learn how to use Jacktrip, and I have the little device, and you simply mute your Zoom audio. And so, and if you're trying to train somebody to do that with you and they fail, you at least can go back to your original audio. But there's something about the ease of use with Zoom that helps get people started. And then you can start to propose improvements and use a different low latency audio package and just mute your Zoom. And then again, have it as a fallback if they're trying and failing with something a little bit better.
And that is quite common solution by most of the people. Use the video and switch off the audio.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd like to also add that I'm using Sonovus software to carry sound, and at least for me as a classical guitar player, it's simple enough for me to get along with. So I tried Jacktrip, but that was too complicated.
Thank you. Should we move to the second part of the...
Yes, and now many of you asked what was behind the scene of yesterday evening concert, how did you made it up, etc. So it was a usual performance. The first thing you do when you do something like that, you sit on the computer where you have your own Lola installation, or on the computer which is on the very same network. And the first thing you do is you have the IP address of the remote stuff, and you ping. And hopefully you get something saying, okay, I'm pinging it, I can reach that machine. And that's something which people always forget because they assume it's always all right. But and you spend half an hour trying to understand, and then you understand you're just disconnected. So first very clear thing we did was pinging the other machine in Vilnius and finding that that machine was not answering. Okay, fine, it was an IP address on our side, so we put the IP address the correct way, and we were able to ping them. The second thing that you normally do is you call a command which normally is called traceroute, but it's called tracert on Windows, the same, and you try to find the path that you use to go to the other side. And you find that you go the correct way, or you go in Australia and then come back. If you go to Australia, you call the IT and network department and start shouting, help, help, help. And then if it is not, then it's okay. It is not enough, because people assume that if I go from here to there in a way, I also come back the same way. Absolutely false. So you need to ask your partner on the other side, please do the same and tell me which is the way you take to come to me. And actually, we discovered that the way to come to us was a different one. So we had to call for help and fix that. Fine. Then you, in the end, you're ready. You click connect on the LoLa application. You start making the connection and look what's happening. What normally you do is you open what it is called a network monitor. You will see it in here tomorrow morning when we do the hands-on. The network monitor is a panel which a number of parameters on it. A number of them should be always stay 0 or very close to 0 because they are the errors, the problems, and so on. And if you see, for example, that you have a little bit of error, etc., you can just adjust them using some buffers, audio buffer essentially. You add a little bit of delay, but you recover the fact that maybe you lose some packet, and in that way you don't lose it anymore. If it happens that all these numbers are rocketing up, then you are in trouble. Then you have a serious problem, because it means that whatever you are receiving from the other side is very bad. You are not able to see or to listen to anything which is music, but just crap. Of course, you need to ask the remote partner to do exactly the same, because you might be receiving perfectly and they are not, and you don't know because you cannot listen to them. At that point, the best thing to do is that you fire up what is called send and receive the audio and video testing signals, which by the video is a very stupid standard color bar with a clock running on it, so they can tune the color system on the other side. And for the audio, you get the 6 kilohertz beep. You remember the old time when television was still sending signals like that in the beginning? Okay, beware not to wear headphones because it's very loud. And if you have headphones, you get your ears quite damaged when you receive it. But if you listen to the 6 kilohertz, it must be a beep. If there is any minimal problem in the audio, you immediately listen to it. You hear clicks, you hear holes, and if it is beep, it's perfect. Then you're ready to go. Then you can call the musicians, and you can go on stage and do the rehearsal. One of the things that normally happens is that you believe that everything is ready inside your local area network. Well, don't assume it. Test it. For example, yesterday we just discovered, we lost nearly 1 hour because of that, because I was sending a very good audio to Vilnius, and they were receiving it, etc., and I was getting crap from Vilnius. How do you debug it? Well, if you are lucky and you have enough people there, you can do what Vytenis and myself did. Instead of connecting Vilnius and Tallinn, we connected Vilnius and Trieste, and it was perfect. We connected Tallinn and Trieste, and it was not. So it's very easy. Where is the problem? Here, because there is nothing on the other side. The problem here means normally here, locally, inside. So we called for the help of our IT people here and told them there is something wrong on the cable which goes from this machine to the router now out to ENET, and that was it. The cabling was wrong. The fiber was plugged into the wrong patch panel, so instead of going straight to the router and out, we were going all over the local network with everybody else. So we were disturbing everybody else, and everybody else was disturbing us. So as soon as just move the fiber optic, 0, 0, 0, 0, all the errors went to 0, and then we call, come here, rehearse, and go. So this is a normal step that you do when something happens. It can happen. The basic word is don't panic, follow the procedure, and you will fix it, unless there is something really broken, like it was in Philadelphia, like Hans said. But also in that case, call help, bring a router here in 2 minutes, please. But that was how the network part of it is. And now I let it to Carl to tell us how was the audio and video part of it, of the setup.
For us, the most important thing to keep in mind always with Lula is we need to basically, with audio and video systems, have as low latency as possible as well. Because otherwise all the good networking, the Lola software itself is useless. If you just take like a normal TV set that has its own latency, not going to work. Last night, the idea was to provide you the most realistic situation possible. So, as it would be in a normal constant scenario, the cellist and the pianist. With the video side, we decided to opt for LED panels because they are, with the size we needed, the most optimal, low latency, and actually we rented it because it's a really special kind of equipment that needs to be configured. So that was the idea, to have the cellist in real size on the stage, as you see it. Actually, the compromise, because it's a concert scenario, is that the LED screen has a little bit more latency than a gaming monitor we would usually use. But I hope you didn't really feel it, because it was still low enough for your brain to connect the audio and the visual side. The audio, now, also we used a totally separate system, a Genelec speaker on the stage that represents the cello player, and also a little Genelec for the pianist to hear the cello, because the speaker doesn't resonate as an instrument, and neither actually does the microphone. The microphone doesn't represent your ear. So we need to compensate a bit on that side. But yes, we used a totally separate system for audio again because of the low latency. And we used today's world's ancient console, Yamaha 01B, again because of the latency situation. The processing in there is digital, but it's so basic and so fast that it's usable for us. It goes directly to the computer sound card, RME Hammerfall, and directly to the motherboard. So we basically leave out all unnecessary connections, distances, everything as direct as possible. And the compensating part, for me as an audio engineer, actually the most interesting thing with Lula always is that I'm doing sound for them. I don't actually hear it. My microphone placement, I send a clean signal, but it's not for me. I don't feel it myself. And I have to take account the other room where the speaker is, and vice versa as well. They send me a signal, and I need to make it suitable for our room. And the two rooms, it's like a brain game for me. How do I perceive it on the other side, and how do I make it work on our side? So it wasn't actually a direct signal that you heard. It was always little tweaking that made it work like a actual cello on the stage. And there was a moment for me as well where I felt that, oh, the cello player is in Vilnius, but it didn't click immediately. It isn't perceivable for me. So that's an interesting scenario.
Yeah, and above all, also for the audio part, all the things that were said in the previous day, Monday morning by Jesper, etc., were applied. Of course, you don't put the Genelec audio monitor 2 meters away from you, because there you generate the latency in the air. You put it here, half a meter from you. And also, yesterday, we completely disabled the PA system up there.
Exactly.
Because we just wanted to have the cello from the cello. Normally, when it is a bigger concert, you maybe use the PA system, and for example, with the PA system, you may delay a little bit the sound, so the people down there in the back see that the cello and the video are in sync. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. Yesterday was not done on purpose because the cello was on stage. If the concert is amplified, then the audio engineer can play all these pieces and tricks. But remember, for example, not to put the audio monitor for the musician 3 meters away. That is a lot of latency. You don't put the violin here and the cello there on a quartet. It doesn't work. They don't play together. Other thing to consider, when you do this, try to make it as transparent as possible. So you were not able to see the microphone yesterday evening because they were in the piano, in the correct position, but inside. You cannot avoid to see the camera. The camera must be somewhere. But luckily, it's little enough that it does not disturb. When you place the camera, consider that it is not for you, it's for them. So when you do camera placement, you talk to the other part, and they tell you what they want to see, and not vice versa. And that's the essential part. You are serving something which is not here with you. It's something somewhere else. So they pilot you. and you pilot them vice versa. So that the kind of mindset that you need to use when you make a setup like that. And then you click, you get off the stage, and you let them play, and you forget about it. Yeah, maybe Karl was adjusting a little bit the sound during the concert.
Yeah. I wasn't forgetting about it because I was all the time trying to imagine that I'm sitting there next to the cellist and the pianist, and actually, in my mind, I was trying to imagine the situation, how it would actually be, because at the back, it sounds completely different. We are having a speaker, not the actual cello. It resonates completely differently. So just from my previous experience, trying to remember how it sounds if I sit next to the cello, to provide you, who are sitting more at the back of the hall, the best sound possible. Always tweaking a little bit, calculating in my head how many high frequencies go away during the room, and so on, and so on.
Yeah. Any question, curiosity, suggestion, feedback? Yeah, there is one down there. Many questions, yeah.
Hi, Claudia. It's Richard Bland from Royal College of Music. You mentioned about the camera setup that you talk to the musicians and ask where they would like it, what they would like to see. I was curious, you've got more experience than us. When you're working with people who haven't used Lola before, do you find you sometimes you need to tell them because they don't necessarily know if they haven't worked with the technology before? They might imagine what they want to see, but actually, do you have advice for people who are just first trying it? This is the first setup you should try to avoid disasters.
Well, normally the first time you do it, you don't do a performance. You do a teaching session, or you do a session without any musician or any teacher at all. And you just tell them what to do, what to click. You make them examples, you provide them different possible solutions, and they tell you the one they like best, etc. For example, yesterday evening probably we forgot another thing. We forgot that we have an audience, and in some situations we have been requested that we should also send the audience noise to the other sound. It's typical situation if you have a soloist which is in a studio and you have a concert with an audience in here. The soloist from the studio wants to listen to just to get the applause, of course, but also want to listen how they react. If it is a jazz musician, it will not start to play if it is not listening to what the audience is doing here, because it cannot do it. So a microphone pointing to the audience, low level, which get you the people opening their chocolate and making the noise, is perfect. It's not a disturbance, it's what they want. And so having the feedback and so on. Yesterday evening, what we were even planning in the beginning, we put the camera, an additional camera to the audiences, so they can see each other. But then we had the network problem, so we said, oh, get out to the camera, we just do with one. But we could have seen the audience in Vilnius, and they could have seen us as an audience, which is also mixing the two spaces in a better way, because with Lola you can do that. So, but that's another trick to make people feel together.
Claudia, just a comment. I'm a teacher, I'm not an engineer, so it's just an ignorant question. You mentioned the audience, the experience for the audience, and I think when we're setting up Lola, in my view, you're setting up for the musicians and for the audience. And the two experiences are quite different in a way. I think for the musician, I understand you need a super fast gaming screen. But what I've experienced before is that sometimes you project that to the audience without the gaming screen. And then the audience said, what are you talking about? There is a delay, I can see a delay. And it's not Lola, and then it gets mixed up. So do you have an advice as the best way to set up for the audience whilst the musicians are having that super good experience, but you want the audience to have that too, which yesterday was perfect. There's nothing to do with it, but just for us working with it.
When you do with an audience, if you're not using the PA system like yesterday, there's little you can do. That's it. Normally with an audience, you use the PA system to make them listen a little bit. You just delay and sync the audio and the video with the PA system. So you just put a little bit of delay, and you put them in sync. And then they see it perfectly in sync. They see it late, but they don't know. They're watching, they're not playing. So they are receiving, so it's fine. Beware, of course, that the musicians don't get too much sound from the PA to them, because then they are in trouble. Yeah, or you start the echo
loop, yeah.
or the Larsen even. Renate?
Yes, I have a question. Perhaps you mentioned it. Forgive me, my concentration was away a second. I was interested, what was your intention yesterday that you put the screen of the cello musician behind the piano player? Why not to the other side? Why behind him?
You mean the video monitor for the piano player?
Why behind him? Because this was, for me, a little bit interesting, because it divided them. Because the piano player, because the monitor, I can understand, perhaps there was a delay between the picture and the tone, but the piano player always looked into the notes. So my question is why you decided to put the screen where you did it.
There are two reasons for that. Mainly in Estonia, the tradition is that the cellist is behind the piano. This is the most common setup on the stage. In other countries it might be different. Sometimes, of course, the cellist is in front of the piano. And yesterday, usually, if they play, the pianist, yes, looks behind him. But yesterday there was a separate screen or a monitor TV screen for the pianist. So he just looked. It was the most sensible thing to do. It's much more comfortable for the pianist to just look ahead, just over the notes here, and he can see the cellist. Otherwise, the other option would be, yes, to put the monitor for the pianist behind the LED screen, but it's not convenient. It might look better, but we thought that, okay, people understand, yes, we have a technical scenario, it's Lola, and we can show that the TV is there for the pianist.
Yes, I understand, but I also would say you could, at the same time, really also think what is convenient for the audience. So I was irritated by it. That's why I asked the question.
Okay.
And I think it's really so important because it was absolutely great, the music. But just think about it. That's why I mentioned it.
One little more detail also was that, again, we needed to provide a good picture for Lithuania. We couldn't have had anything in front of the piano because they had the same scenario there. They just needed a box with a piano on the stage, and the setup was the same.
Thank you for answering the question. Very
Thank
interesting.
You.
Thank you.
Yeah. We will.
Maybe I won't talk about it.
No, you will talk. We delay the lunch.
So it's Sami from JAMK University of Applied Sciences in Jyväskylä, Finland. So I have two questions for you. So first, you were talking about tracing your internet connection. How do you do it first? And the second one, you didn't have any audio glitches or dropouts at all yesterday, and we are actually experiencing them all the time. So what could be the problem or the problems in that case when you have audio dropouts or glitches?
Well, the first question is very easy. You open the command prompt on the PC. You remember the old DOS system where you can type the directory, whatever, and you write tracert and the IP address of the other one. And it does you the complete path. And then you ask the other one to do exactly the same, and in case send back a photo to you, and you check. They must be the same. They must be symmetrical. If they're not, then you call your network operator. The issue of the clicks and etc., it is always a matter of the network normally. And it means that probably not along the backbone, because the backbone are fast enough, but inside your own local area network, you have some problem with some of the switches. So you should talk to the IT department and try to make them go as straight as possible from the place you are to the router, and just do not go across many switches, because the switches are the ones which are causing the problem. Yesterday there was one switch here, and it was making a disaster. The switches are not done to do streaming stuff like Lola. They're done to do something else. So you bypass them. So it's a matter of real, you do it once and then you know, but you need to do it the first time. Go and track it, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm Peter from Robert Schumann Hochschule in Düsseldorf, Germany. For me, the concert is nearly perfect, but there was a funny moment for me, And at the end of the concert, the cellist stands up and the head's cut off. And that's about, what about, you are talking Monday morning, and your colleague in Copenhagen, I forget the name. Jesper is calling, is talking about this. You have done rehearsals, and one thing that you couldn't, you couldn't imagine, or you haven't imagined before, is the applause of the audience, because during the rehearsals you haven't any audience. That was the point.
That was an interesting. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, it was an interesting point because we had imagined it, but due to the lack of room on the other side in Vilnius, I understood they couldn't frame it perfectly. Our idea was that the screen was big enough actually to display the cellist real size. Yesterday he was obviously bigger than he would have been in real life. And in that scenario, it would have worked so that if he stands up, he's nicely all the way seen. But due to the lack of room in Vilnius, they couldn't get the shot so that it's correct in the way, and that's why it happened. So apologies for that. It was, sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you.